Let me tell you a couple of cool things about stories. For one thing, they don't need to be very long to be effective. The shortest inaugural address ever was George Washington's. It was just 135 words. Now compare that to William Henry Harrison. In 1841, in his inaugural address, Harrison talked for 2 hours. He said 9,000 words, and it was freezing. Freezing. A month later, he died of a cold. Died of a cold and pneumonia. So you don't need to have a long story. With 1,000 words, only 1,000 words, you can have the Lord's Prayer, the 23rd Psalm, the Hippocratic Oath, a sonnet by Shakespeare, the preamble to the Constitution, Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, and just about all of the Boy Scouts' oath. Just with 1,000 words. There's an ancient African tribe that has this rule. Imagine if we had this as advisors. A speaker must stand on one leg while addressing the audience. As soon as his second foot touches the ground, he has to stop. David Belasco, the playwright, said this: if you can't write your idea on the back of my calling card, you don't have a clear idea. So, well, good stories help you make a clear-cut point. Here's a story. Listen to the point of this story. An old man in a small town set up a stand on a street to sell fish, okay? He posted a sign above the stand that read, "Fresh fish for sale here. Fresh fish for sale here." After an hour, this guy's young nephew stopped at the stand and said, "Why do you have the word fresh in your sign? You wouldn't sell any fish if they weren't fresh." Well, the young kid had gone to college, so the old man said, well, he knows what he's talking about. He took out the word fresh. His nephew looked at the sign again and said, "Why does the sign say here? Obviously you're right here." Well, that seemed to make sense, so the old man took out the word here. But his nephew still wasn't satisfied. "You don't need the word for sale, do you? You're not giving fish away. Everyone knows that." So the old man took out for sale and just had one word, fish. The kid said, "Why do you need the word fish up there? Everyone knows what you're selling." So he took down the sign and put it under the stand. By the end of the day, goes the story, the old man hadn't sold any fish, had to throw them all away because it was starting to rot. The next day he went back to his original sign, and customers came from all over to buy his fish. You get the point, right? Also, stories are great for making a very difficult subject very simple. In reality, the reality is what you say is not nearly as important as what the other person hears. And the great ones, whether in our business or in other businesses, have the ability to make it simple. Simple's genius. Picasso supposedly said it took him 4 years to learn to paint like Raphael, but it took him a lifetime to learn to paint like a child. Let me tell you a story that happened to me. When I was in college, I had an English lit professor who one day gave us a challenge. He said, "I want you to write down the words of a man contemplating suicide. What would go through his mind?" And he handed out blue books. And all the time allotted, we wrote blue book after blue book of what someone would think and everything going through their mind prior to committing suicide. When we finished, the professor collected all the blue books, and he opened a book on his desk, a big book, and said, "Let me tell you how a great storyteller would do this." And he read, "To be or not to be, that is the question. Learn some good stories."